Hidden in the rolling landscapes of the Iberian Peninsula are traces of ancient human endeavours, some of the oldest in Europe. Here, amidst the rugged cliffs and lush valleys, the stories of Portugal and Spain begin to unfold millennia ago. But how did these neighbouring nations carve such distinct paths through history? Join us as we explore their intertwined yet divergent journeys, from ancient civilizations to modern nations, uncovering the forces that moulded unique identities on shared soil. Long before the Romans stamped their authority on the Iberian Peninsula, it was a melting pot of diverse cultures and peoples. Among them, the Iberians, Celtiberians, and Tartessians each played a pivotal role in early history. These groups introduced sophisticated metalworking, intricate art, and complex trade networks which connected Iberia to the broader Mediterranean. The Tartessians, for instance, are often cited for their wealth and early city-states, evidence of which suggests they engaged in trade with both the Greeks and the Phoenicians. The distinction between future Portugal and Spain began to take shape even in these early pre-Roman times. To the west, the Iberians were known for their fortified settlements and a society that may have been amongst the earliest to exploit the peninsula's mineral wealth. Meanwhile, in the broader expanses of what would become Spain, Celtiberians dominated the highlands, their warrior societies resisting the encroaching empires with fervour. Each culture left a lasting imprint on the region's social fabric and laid the groundwork for the diverse cultural landscape that would challenge and shape the Roman conquerors. When the legions of Rome crossed into the Iberian Peninsula in 218 BC, they encountered a land of fragmented tribes and rich resources. The Roman conquest brought with it roads, aqueducts, and the Latin language, foundational elements that would significantly shape the future cultural and political landscapes of what would become Portugal and Spain. However, the Roman imprint went beyond mere infrastructure and language. It introduced Roman law and governance, deeply integrating Iberia into the vast Roman Empire and setting a precedent for centralized authority. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled in the 5th century, the Visigoths took the reins on the peninsula. Their rule introduced a new layer of governance, marked by the fusion of Roman legal traditions with Germanic customs. Critically, the Visigothic kingdom was marred by internal strife and religious tensions, particularly with the sizable Jewish population, which would later face severe repercussions during the Reconquista. The Visigoths' inability to form a cohesive and stable governance model highlights a recurring theme in Iberian history: the challenge of unifying a region marked by diverse cultures and rugged landscapes. This fragmentation under Visigothic rule not only made the peninsula vulnerable to conquest, but also perpetuated a legacy of division that would echo through the centuries. In 711 AD, Islamic forces crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, inaugurating a period of over 7 centuries of Muslim presence on the Iberian Peninsula, known as Al-Andalus. This era is often romanticized for its reputed tolerance and cultural flourishing, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews coexisted under Islamic rule. However, the reality was complex, characterized by both cooperation and conflict, tolerance and oppression, depending on the rulers and the times. Islamic administrations introduced sophisticated agricultural techniques, such as the Athikia irrigation systems, which revolutionized Iberian agriculture and remains in use today. They also brought architectural marvels like the Great Mosque of Cordoba and the Alhambra, which stand as enduring symbols of Islamic art and architecture. Moreover, the translation movements in cities like Toledo played a crucial role in preserving and enhancing the knowledge of the ancient world, eventually transmitting it back to a Europe emerging from the Dark Ages. The breakdown of the Caliphate of Cordoba into smaller Taifa kingdoms made the region politically unstable and economically vulnerable, inviting the Reconquista efforts from the northern Christian kingdoms. Analysis of this period reveals a nuanced narrative of cultural synthesis and division, illustrating how the legacy of Islamic rule has indelibly shaped the cultural and historical contours of modern Spain and Portugal, from language and law to cuisine and civic life. As we delve deeper into Portugal and Spain, you bring these stories to life. Keep liking and sharing to help me continue this journey. Don't forget to subscribe and share your insights in the comments as we continue to explore the world together. As the power of the Islamic states in Iberia waned, the Christian Reconquista gained momentum, a series of campaigns by Christian states to reclaim territory from the Muslims. This time is often heralded as a unifying crusade that solidified Christian identity across the peninsula. However, the reality was a patchwork of rivalries and alliances both among Christian kingdoms and between them and their Muslim neighbours, which complicated the narrative of a united Christian front. The Reconquista culminated in 1492 with the fall of Granada, the last Muslim stronghold, coinciding symbolically with Columbus's voyage to the Americas, an event that marked the beginning of a new era of Spanish global dominance. Yet, it was during this period of gradual reconquest that Portugal distinctly emerged as an independent entity. In 1139, Alfonso Henriques was proclaimed the King of Portugal after his victory at the Battle of Orique. This military triumph was a foundational moment for the Portuguese national identity, distinct and separate from Spain. This period saw the consolidation of linguistic and cultural identities that have persisted into modern times. The establishment of the Spanish and Portuguese borders was less about a grand vision of nation-states than about the messy realities of medieval politics and warfare. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, Portugal and Spain embarked on the Age of Discovery, as each kingdom sought to expand its influence across the seas. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, mediated by the Pope, divided the New World between them, a bold attempt to delineate spheres of influence that would shape the geopolitics of the modern world. This agreement granted Portugal rights to newly discovered lands to the east of an established meridian in the Atlantic Ocean, while Spain claimed territories to the west. While initially seen as equitable, this deal would, following future discoveries, greatly favour the Spanish, as vast and resource-rich territories in the Americas fell west of the meridian. Portugal, under the leadership of visionaries like Prince Henry the Navigator, pioneered the exploration of the African coast and the discovery of sea routes to India, forging a vast maritime empire that included Brazil, Africa, and Asia. This network not only facilitated a lucrative spice trade, but also marked the beginning of the global slave trade, a dark legacy that profoundly affected the regions involved. Spain, on the other hand, propelled by the ambitious voyages of Columbus, Cortes, and others, embarked on extensive colonization of the Americas. This brought immense wealth through the exploitation of natural resources and indigenous peoples, fundamentally altering the demographic and cultural landscapes of an entire continent. The colonial pursuits of Portugal and Spain were driven not just by the quest for new trade routes and territorial expansion, but also by a desire to spread Christianity. This dual motive led to a complex legacy of cultural exchange, subjugation, and resistance with enduring impacts. In 1580, a succession crisis precipitated a pivotal moment in Iberian history: the union of the Portuguese and Spanish crowns under King Philip II of Spain. This period, often overshadowed in the grand narratives of empire, brought significant challenges and changes to Portugal, which found itself under Spanish supremacy. Despite the promises of autonomy, the reality was a gradual erosion of Portuguese independence and influence. The Union facilitated the spread of Spanish political and economic policies into Portugal. The Iberian Union lasted until 1640, when Portugal reclaimed its independence through a revolt spurred by widespread dissatisfaction with the Spanish administration. But the restoration of Portuguese sovereignty was not merely a rejection of Spanish rule, but also a reassertion of Portuguese identity, which had been suppressed under the Union. Critically, this period exemplifies the complexities of dynastic unions in shaping national histories. While it temporarily created the largest global empire under a single European monarch, it also stoked enduring tensions between Portugal and Spain. In the 20th century, both Portugal and Spain grappled with tumultuous political landscapes that culminated in authoritarian regimes. Salazar's Estado Novo in Portugal and Franco's dictatorship in Spain. Both dictatorships emerged from periods of instability and were marked by suppression of opposition, censorship, and economic policies that were as much about maintaining control as they were about modernization. Despite the superficial similarities, the impacts and outcomes of these regimes differed significantly. In Portugal, Salazar's Estado Novo maintained a strict hold until the Carnation Revolution of 1974, a virtually bloodless coup that transitioned the country to democracy. This revolution set a precedent for peaceful change and was characterized by widespread popular support for democratization and decolonization efforts. Spain's transition following Franco's death in 1975 was more gradual and fraught with challenges. The transition to democracy involved delicate negotiations and was marked by the pivotal 1978 Constitution, which solidified democratic governance and acknowledged regional autonomies within a unified Spanish state. These transitions were not just shifts in political power, but also transformative periods that reshaped both nations' identities and their positions on the global stage. Portugal and Spain, nations carved from the rugged landscapes of the Iberian Peninsula, have navigated history to establish unique national identities. The legacies of their ancient beginnings, dynastic unions, colonial ambitions, and authoritarian pasts continue to influence their contemporary politics, culture, and international relations. As we reflect on these intertwined yet distinct paths, it becomes evident that the forces of history are not merely relics of the past, but architects of the present and future. For more captivating adventures and explorations of incredible places around the world, click on the video on screen now. Your next journey awaits. Happy travels!